what is the worst game of 2023? This has been something I've been wondering about for a couple of months now, because this year has unironically been insane. 2023 kept up releasing banger after banger after banger, but here and there were still some stinkers secretly being sprinkled out trying to stain 2023. And you know what? I couldn't help myself. I had to find out which game left the biggest stain, so I decided to do what had to be done. I had to find out what the ickiest and greasiest game of 2023 is, and I didn't just want to know what it is, but why. So I decided to pick out the 5 most negatively talked about games of this year and decided to fully complete every single one of them from top to bottom. Every collectible, every side quest, every achievement, 100% everything. The games in question I decided to go with are Forspoken, Redfall, The Lord of the Rings Gollum, Avatar Quest for Balance, and Skull Island Rise of Kong. So yeah, I suffered a lot and I'm not happy. So let me take you guys on a journey of filthy stains, icky schmuck, and rotten garbage. A quest to find out what the worst game of 2023 is. But before we start diving into a bunch of schmuck, let me tell you about a quality game first, because this video is sponsored by Roboquest, baby, a very stylish and addictive FPS action roguelite where you play as a big boy robot in a quest to give mankind a fighting chance. Seriously though, I might be sponsored, but this game genuinely slaps. It is a nice blend between a buttery smooth modern boomer shooter and the randomness / replayability of something like an Isaac or Spelunky, and it's extremely satisfying to control. In Roboquest, you fight your way through a string of levels while destroying every enemy robot that's on your path, dodging and weaving through enemy projectiles while slowly upgrading your own arsenal with new upgrades, abilities, and wacky guns. That's the big selling point of this game. The amount of different types of guns the game throws at your face is overwhelming. There are so many of them. Pistols, dual-wield shotguns, throwing knives, sticky bombs, assault rifles, grenade launchers, chainsaws, mine launchers, sniper rifles, LMGs, revolvers, so many weapons, and each one has their own little quirky gimmick that you need to try and utilize to its fullest. There are also a bunch of upgrades you can find to help you in your quest, different pathways and zones to discover, each zone with new and unique enemies, fancy bosses, secret areas, a funky story. There is a lot of content packed in this title, and that's not even mentioning that you can play the entire game in co-op online with a bot, which is dope as hell. So if you want to support the channel, you can click the link in the description down below or in the pinned comments to get yourself a shiny copy of Roboquest. And as a little bonus, the game is on a 20% discount at the moment until the 28th of November, which is very, very nice. A big thank you to Roboquest for sponsoring this video. It is genuinely a fantastic game, so please go check it out. Alright, back to the schmuck. We're starting off with Forspoken, which was released on the 24th of January. This title already had a rocky start before it was even released, because nobody was interested in it in the slightest. Probably because people saw the review trailer and saw the moment where the main protagonist went,
I'm seeing freaking dragons.
I'm seeing freaking dragons. This game has Marvel-ass writing and it's cringe as hell. In Forspoken, you play as Frey Holland, a self-absorbed, selfish, annoying, and just overall mean person who is accommodated by a metal talking cuff that gives her superpowers that allows Frey to perform magic parkour. She also has multiple magic weapons which are slowly given to you throughout the main campaign. And you and funny metal cuff get sucked through a portal and end up in a new realm called Ethia, which is just a bland, grassy, sandy covered open world with a few Ubisoft-esque distractions sprinkled throughout. Every single one of these distractions are just markers put on a map, and usually it's go to this marker and interact with a statue, or go to this marker to open a chest, or go to this marker to defeat a group of baddies, and yeah, that's basically Forspoken. That's 90% of the gameplay loop. There is a story, but the whole thing can be dumbed down to a city of people going, "Help us, Frey! You're our only hope! Save us from this torment!" And then Frey responds to that by saying,
I don't care what happens to Athia. If it's saved or if it burns, I don't give a shit because this place is not my home.
I hate you. I hate you with a passion. This is the biggest problem with Forspoken. Frey, and to a lesser extent POOF, are so incredibly unlikable, and they never shut up. They keep on yapping and fighting and arguing, and Frey randomly curses at POOF for no reason, and all of it is insanely annoying and dreadful. I've played a lot of games in my years, but I've never found a character as unlikable as Frey Holland. I understand that she's supposed to grow and mature over your playthrough, but she leaves such a stinky fart in the air that I'm just not able to get over. Spoilers if you care, but there is a part where you have to choose to either save Athia and become a hero, or go back to Earth and move on with your mundane, boring ass life where you leave a duffel bag full of cash in a burning building, even though Frey was easily able to grab it, but she is so stupid and brain dead that she keeps saying,
Gotta find Homer first. Gotta find Homer first. Gotta find Homer first.
People find Frey so annoying that they collectively say that going home instead of saving Athia is the canon ending, which is absolutely mind-bogglingly insane. This is without any exaggeration the worst gaming protagonist I've ever played as. She just sucks. She's just really annoying. The gameplay itself isn't awful, but it's just mediocre and a bit boring. The magic parkour is fun at times, but at other times it just doesn't want to work. Combat is okay, exploration is you just running in an empty open field 90% of the time. It's an okay game dragged down heavily by a god-awful protagonist that doesn't want to shut up, and they are charging $80 for this game, which is a goddamn crime. I've poured about 43 hours into it, 100%ing it, and I had some sort of fun here and there, but I would still say that this game is incredibly mediocre, so I give it a 4.5 out of 10. Not a good game in the slightest, but definitely not god-awful. Next up we have Redfall, an Arcane Austin game. Well, I say that, but after their last game, Prey, which was pretty good, 70% of the studio left. So basically an almost completely new and pretty understaffed team made this title, and apparently the development was so troubled that the developers hoped that Microsoft would cancel the project after they got acquired, which, you know, it doesn't really scream good game. And you guessed it, it didn't get cancelled, even though everyone behind the scenes knew that this game was not ready by a long shot, but Microsoft decided to keep the choo-choo train going, and they released it in a pretty pathetic state. Redfall was released on the 2nd of May, and it is a co-op open world looter shooter about vampires that try to take over a town, and your goal is to simply get rid of them. So what you do in this game is explore a bland open world where you do very lame and repetitive quests like kill special vampire that has a unique attack, or go to place to put a watch on a grave. That was the entire mission. I think the thing they were trying to go with is an immersive sim, because that's what Arcane is usually known for, seeing a situation in front of you and trying to tackle it in your way, may it be with stealth or going in guns blazing. And Redfall actually has this pretty nifty system in co-op called Trust, which you slowly build up by doing activities together with friends, and the more trust you have, the more the protagonists chit-chat with each other and call out secret entrances or tips, which is genuinely a cool idea. The thing is, if you play solo, this system does absolutely nothing, and good luck convincing a friend to buy a $70 game that isn't even good, let alone 3 people for a full squad. It's basically just impossible. At the start of the game, you can choose from 4 characters, each with their own personality and abilities, but they still all mostly play the same. Their abilities just slightly aid you in combat here and there, because the best strategy 95% of the time is to get close to an enemy and one-shot them with a shotgun. If it's a vampire though, you shoot them 3 times and then stab them. They do have different vampire variants, but honestly it's not even worth going over because the most powerful one just kind of sits there and just looks at you. It's overall just very undercooked and bland. I mean, the cutscenes aren't even really cutscenes. Like, it's so crystal clear that this game was heavily understaffed and just not ready to be put out. And it also doesn't help that the studio itself didn't even want to make it. For a good game, you need a soul, and Redfall just doesn't have one. It's an empty husk. And that's not even mentioning all the bugs and very rough edges. Like, burst rifles will sound like they are shooting 2 or 4 bullets when only shooting 3. Side characters will have 2 conversations at the same time while looking like this. Quests at times don't want to trigger correctly. The game has this mechanic to show you when you're on low health, but it's worthless because enemies can still one-shot you when you have 2/3 health remaining. Explosions look pathetic. Breaking glass looks pathetic. The enemy AI is pathetic. And the flashlight is absolutely worthless and my biggest nitpick with Redfall. I thought they figured this crap out in Half-Life 2 decades ago. Look how bad it looks. Instead of lighting up the place, it just blinds everything, making you unable to see or read anything and making these really jagged black pixels appear. It's really goddamn jarring. It took me 39 hours to fully complete and I did enjoy it more than Forspoken, but for all the wrong reasons. It's objectively worse, so I'm giving Redfall a 4 out of 10. And by the way, I pre-ordered this game because I thought it would be fun. I don't trust myself anymore. Alright, so this is without a shadow of a doubt the game I was dreading the most to play because I knew before even diving into it that I had to beat it 3 times to get all the achievements, and yes, it was painful. The Lord of the Rings Gollum was released on the 25th of May and it is the single most perplexing title I've ever laid my eyes upon because in this game you play as Sméagol, the single most disgusting and filthy creature in all of fiction, and what you do is a bunch of slave labor. That's not a joke. The first half of this game is you being stuck in a filthy prison, forced to do gross slave labor, and the second half is you being babysitted by a bunch of elves. What insane Dumbo thought it was a good idea not to just make a game about Sméagol, but a game about Sméagol that is imprisoned for the entire journey? Like, huh? Like, at least with Forspoken and Redfall, you go on an adventure, even if it's somewhat uninteresting. There is something. In this game, you just rot in a cell while once again doing slave labor. Who came up with this? Usually, before you start making a game, you think of an idea, you know. What is your main gimmick, the main gameplay gripe? Maybe it's movement or a thoughtful narrative, exploration, crazy action set pieces, satisfying gunplay. Every game has their selling points. And the Lord of the Rings Gollum big selling point is that it is set in the Lord of the Rings universe. Besides that, there is nothing appealing about it because the game mainly consists of mediocre climbing and really bad stealth sections. That's it. The story sucks, the presentation sucks, the puzzles suck, everything just sucks. It's genuinely bad. I guess they have this somewhat interesting system where Sméagol has schizo episodes between his 2 personalities and you have to choose which of his 2 sides you want to prevail, but all that this really does is change some minor things in the narrative. Besides that, it's completely worthless. Well, okay, here's the real big selling point of this game, okay? It's you jumping Gollum into a pit, seeing his funny ragdoll freak out, to then see it transition to the worst game over screen of all time. Yeah, that's the best part of this game. Not good. There was also this part in the second chapter where they had these big spinning wooden wheels, but for some reason they just completely broke for me and started skewing off in the wrong direction weirdly, which was really strange. I want you to keep this in mind, okay? I'll come back to it later. After the entire internet was done dunking on this crap show of a game, the developers made a classic Twitter apology, just like Forspoken and Redfall, but this time it was reportedly completely written with AI. So yeah, this game is just a mess, and I can't even fathom what was happening behind the scenes, because a few months later the studio just completely shut down, which is really sad. The Lord of the Rings Gollum is a boring, buggy, unappealing and gross game. It is an insult to the Lord of the Rings franchise, so I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 10. This one isn't even funny to play, it's just sad, so please avoid it at all costs. Speaking of insults, here you have another one. Avatar: The Last Airbender Quest for Balance was released on the 22nd of September, and it is a retelling of the Avatar: The Last Airbender TV series in video game form. If you want my opinion on the actual show, then here it is, okay? It's very good. Look, I even wrote a little thumbs up in the script, you see. The game, on the other hand, is a filthy, soulless cash grab that has no respect for the source material, because this title is just a dumbed down and bland Lego game without any of the charm that makes a Lego game special. Now look, okay, I've played some Lego games in my years, and I always thought that they were alright. Just very simple, silly little games for children, you know, and they can genuinely be really goofy and fun to play. This game, on the other hand, is a boring ass slog, and I hate it. I want to throw it in a 2000-degree burning oven. That's how much I despise it. The whole quote-unquote adventure is split off into 3 books, just like the original show, and each book contains 6 chapters. Now, the original show had 20 episodes per book, which, yeah, is a lot more, so they weren't really able to squeeze all of that into 6 chapters. So what the game does instead is skip entire plot points and retells them with these really bland 10-second tweening animations. It's so incredibly jarring that some of the best episodes of the show, like The Deserter, Zuko Alone, or the Firebending Masters, just don't get featured in the slightest and instead just get glossed over. It feels like such an insult. Not that it really matters though, because the gameplay of Quest for Balance is button mashy combat where the characters continuously scream one-liners, fetch questy missions, subway surfers auto-run levels, and so many sliding box puzzles. Unironically, 33% of this game is you doing these box puzzles. Did I mention that this game is $50? Because it is $50. For a series that is known for cool elemental bending, there sure is a lack of it here. The only thing the bending is really used for is making platforms appear or to solve very simple puzzles. So you think it would be a big part of the combat, but you quickly figure out that the best way to fight is to select Sokka, buy the no knockback ability, and then just mash the X button every single time. Why did they make this? And yeah, that's the entire game. The same 4 things stretched out over a 10-hour adventure with no variety in the slightest. Just the same gawk over and over again, and yeah, it sucks. The overall thing is also just really ugly and surprisingly buggy. Remember the funny spinning wood wheels in Gollum and how they would skew off in the completely wrong direction? Well, that crap happened again in this game, and I have no idea why. It actually almost soft locked me out of completing the game because this part just completely broke for me. I've never seen a glitch like this happen across 2 wildly different games. It is so bizarre. I've poured about 25 hours into it, fully completing it, and I despised every second of it. It's overall just so lazily duct taped and glued together, and the only reason for its existence is so they can trick little kids into buying an Avatar game, because besides that, it doesn't have a single redeeming quality. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. So yeah, the game is not good, but the show is, and you should check it out, smiley face. Alright guys, we finally arrived at the final stretch, and it sure is a stinky one. Skull Island Rise of Kong was released on the 17th of October, and it is a game based on the King Kong IP, and this title is a melee-focused beat-em-up action game where you take revenge on the dinosaur that killed your parents, and yeah, it's really bad. The strange thing is, okay, that the creator of the Kong King of Skull Island novel was involved with with this game, and he even said, and I quote, "I could not be more excited to be working with Game Mail Entertainment's talented team." Ah, yes, the amazing team that brought you games like Nerf Legends, Pickleball Smash, and Avatar: The Last Airbender Quest for Balance. Yes, the same studio published these two games in the span of 1 month. Seriously, what is wrong with you? Now, so far, every title I've babbled about had something going on. I could tell they had some sort of vision that they tried to execute. They failed every single time for sure, but I can respect the hustle, you know? Skull Island Rise of Kong has nothing, and calling it a video game is like calling a turd between two buns a 5 Michelin star meal. What you do in this title is follow a string of 5 bare-bone empty levels, fight a few enemies even though you can run past 95% of them, and then fight a boss at the end. And with fighting a boss, I mean stand on top of a higher elevation and throw rocks at it. I mean, there are collectibles which you need for 100% completion, some abilities you can unlock, but the rest of it is you running through empty levels that all look the exact same the entire way through and throwing rocks at enemies. That's it. There's nothing more here, and all of this beautiful succulent content for only 40 big ones is a steal if I've ever seen one. I'm of course being sarcastic if you couldn't tell. It's once again ugly, buggy, and just broken. I managed to softlock myself in the first 2 hours of playing it, which should be awarded with some kind of prize, honestly. I wish there was more to talk about, but there really isn't. The title is so unbelievably bland, bald, and bad that I'm willing to say that it is the worst game I've ever played in my entire life. And I've played a lot of stinkers, alright? It was also reported that the developers only had 1 year to make the entire thing. So yeah, that basically explains everything. The reason this game is so unbelievably shite is because they had to rush every aspect of it as quickly as possible, and they ended up with a plate full of puke that I'm gonna rate a 1.5 out of 10. It is really bad. And by that being said, I can finally answer the big question of this video. What is the worst game of 2023? I mean, are you surprised? Okay, so every game I talked about in this video is a complete utter joke, okay? But this monstrosity is so unbelievably bad that it takes it to another level, to the point that it is impressive. And honestly, it should win a Game of the Year award for that. So yeah, that's it. This video was hell to make because those 140 hours I wasted playing schmuck, yeah, I'm never getting that back. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me suffer, because I sure did suffer. A final big thank you to Roboquest for sponsoring this video. Again, go check out the game in the description or pinned comment down below. The game slaps and I'm definitely gonna 100% it. And yeah, okay, enough yapping. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye, bye, later.